Amazing. Good evening and praise the name of Jesus, our beloved viewers. Welcome to another episode of Miles with God. I'm your host, Faith Mwangi. I'm hoping and trusting that you are all well in the Lord. The Lord have been good. The Lord have been faithful. And I want to trust that that is the same testimony that you carry in this wonderful evening. I bless the Lord for them that are tuned in already. You're so much welcome for another beautiful moment. If you're following us on Facebook, if you're following us on YouTube, thank you so much. May God bless you. And I want you to confirm to us from where you're watching us from. Let us know where you're following us from. Let us know where you're getting blessed from. And of course, I always remind you, leave that comment on our comment section. Get to tag someone along, get to invite someone, and I know that tonight is going to be a blessing. It is another moment to remind us that God is good and He is forever faithful to them that trust and believe in Him. And I want to trust that this night is not just a show like any other, but this is that moment that the Lord is going to be using even to revive, to fulfill, to ignite something in us, even as you're going to be sharing our beautiful story. Tonight is that night that we are going to be discussing on something very interesting. Yes, we are looking on the fundamental responsibility that we are given by God as a society, and in particular as Christians, to be a blessing, to be of hope, to be to revive the heart of them that are vulnerable. I'm not speaking of any other thing, because tonight I'm joined by these beautiful people, even as we are going to be going through that particular topic of what it is to play the role of carrying the assignment, fulfilling the assignment of taking care of the vulnerable. When I speak of the vulnerable, I'm speaking of the fatherless, I'm speaking of the motherless, I'm speaking of the homeless, I'm speaking of that person, that baby, that child that at some point they have felt hopeless in life, at some point they have felt useless in life, at some point they have felt they are at their edge. And I want to thank God, because tonight you're going to be experiencing what it is to carry this mandate, because it is something that we have been called to. Hallelujah. And I want to believe that you may look at it and feel like, I don't have that particular grace, but I want you to understand it is a responsibility, and especially for us the believers, that God have put upon us to ensure that we are a blessing, to ensure that we stand as a cover, to ensure that we stand as hope, to ensure that we are standing as that reason to smile again in the life of someone. And of course, with that, I am joined by these two amazing people, like I told you, who are going to be helping us even as we discuss that particular thing. I'm amazed, because they are not just going to be telling us how it is, but they are using their life experiences, because that is what Miles with God is all about. Hatujatoka binguni tukaanguka chini, but life is a journey, and we come to bring to you, we come to remind you how and what it takes for us to be in the position that God have put us into. And without much ado, allow me to bring on board my amazing guests, even as they get to introduce themselves, even as they get to tell us where they are coming from, and even as they get to tell us what it takes and what it have taken for them to be where they are today, for them to have overcome, for them to have embraced that particular responsibility that God gave unto them. So thank you so much, even as you join me to bring on board my amazing guest. And allow me to start on my far left, as I request you to introduce yourself to our viewers. Get to tell them where you're coming from, your name, probably what you do, even as we go ahead.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank you for having time to invite us in this program. My name is Shermith Wawira Jiro, saved by the grace of God, who has been with us through the journey that you will be hearing from us. I work for the vulnerable children and the street children, those who are neglected, those who are abandoned, and our organization is under the ECK in Diocese of Kirinyaga, Otugi Children Center, where we cater for those children that we get from all those areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for saying yes to Miles with God. It's such an honor to have you. Karibu sana. Mr. Peter.
Yeah, greetings, my good people. Peter is my name. Munyoki is my surname. By the grace of God, I'm here and I'm saved, and I thank God for this far. First of all, before I'm a Kenyan, I'm a Christian. I thank God for that. So I'm brought up in Otugi Children's Home, where Madam serves as the manager. And it's been a kind of a long journey.
Amazing.
Currently, I'm a BSN, and I'm also a poet. I do very good poems on YouTube, and I thank God for this part.
Amazing. We bless the Lord, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much even for giving your time to Miles with God. And I want to believe tonight is going to be amazing. You know, someone is going to feel like, I think I now have a reason to live again, and because I am looking forward to listening to your amazing story. And of course, there are people who might be looking at the whole of this thing, taking care of the vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they may feel probably this is a calling. Probably this some grace that you need to identify in you. Probably this is an assignment, and of course, to specific people.
Yeah.
What is it for you to be carrying that particular? And I don't know what it is. Probably you can start with telling us, now that you have told us you work for, you know, these kind of people, this group of people. At some point they have found themselves vulnerable. At some point they have found themselves weak. What has it been to you? Is it a calling? Is it an assignment? Is it a job? Are you doing it for an income? What has it been to you?
Thank you very much. When we came into this world,
Yeah.
Through God's will and purpose, God gave each one of us a purpose to live in this world.
Sure.
You have a purpose that you have been called for. I have a purpose that I've been called for, to fulfill for God's will and God's wish. For me, I cannot say it's working for a gift or working for payment or
Yeah.
working for what, because we've started from very humble beginnings. And at times, people felt, I think I'm not thinking well, or I'm not okay, because when we started, it was not easy. And I think it is something that has been in me since a long time, because I've been working for children, teaching the Sunday school. But maybe one thing that I can remember is that somebody one time touched me when I was also vulnerable.
Wow.
So because my life has been touched by somebody who took care of me, I think that thing deep in my heart, I really felt if somebody touched me when I was vulnerable, when I could not help myself, why can I not touch somebody else for the glory of God? Mine is just for fulfillment, for joy. That if I touch somebody, if I touch a life, if I walk with somebody, if I walk with a child, not because of pay, but just for my heart to be fulfilled, that I have lifted that person, not because I'm the one who is giving the resources, but I have walked with that person, with that child who was not able to, at that particular age, to cater for himself, that I have walked the journey. And at the end, whatever has been fulfilled, like this son of mine here,
Absolutely.
it becomes a joy to me. That's all.
Wow.
That's all.
Wow.
For the glory of God.
For the glory of God.
Yes.
Literally, that is the truth, because I want to believe no salary can pay.
True.
No salary can fulfill.
None.
Literally, when you look at what you've been doing, like I can honestly say this is the works of your hands, and the commitment you gave yourself after God assigned you to this. I want to believe there is no fulfillment beyond this. And of course, someone might look at you and feel probably it is because there was an opportunity. That is why probably you are grabbing it. How did you land at Otugi?
Well, I landed at Otugi, not because they had an organization or an institution that had been set up.
Yeah.
But I landed at Otugi because there was somebody else who had come to visit and was working for the theological college. And that person had seen children loitering in the streets of Kutus and Gurubani and I think Keruguya. And then that person was asking, what's wrong here? What why are these children not being helped? So she is the one who started that step. And when she came up with that program, myself, I did not come because there were buildings or something. I came just to start from nowhere.
Wow.
So I landed in Utugi through an interview, but there was nothing there was nothing to rough about or something that you could say, oh, this is a big house, it's an big institution, so I can work here. So we started from nothing, and that is the journey that we have walked, from nothing to something. From those vulnerable children to what you can see here, from nothing to something. Yeah.
Wow. Probably, allow me, I'm getting to this because these are testimony of your story.
Yeah.
These are testimony of your story. And of course, our literally up to this particular point, I thank God because I'm having this reference, up to this particular point, we want to understand that journey, what it have taken. And I thank God because you're saying it did not take promising buildings to feel like this is my place of growth. As a matter of fact, for you, it was not about growth, but it was about impacting, nurturing something, being of help, literally beyond the opportunity. You took it as a privilege to become of help to someone. And of course, I want to know, how was it for you? And when you realize now this is beyond a salary, this is beyond probably personal growth, this is beyond, it gets to a place where I'm going to be resonating with vulnerable situations. How was it for you?
It was difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. Because first, I started with the children from the street. And you understand, children from the street have faced so many challenges. They have experienced very difficult situations.
Yeah, sure.
So starting with them was also very difficult. You could go, and we had a group that had been was being fed somewhere, and then they were coming just to be fed, and that is the group I started with. But you can imagine starting with those children, and then when we came to start in a classroom which was set up, they all ran away the following day.
What?
And they went back to the street.
Wow.
And I was left alone. And I was wondering, what am I going to do? And my spirit told me, keeping on.
Wow.
So I went back to the street, looking for them. Then we came back again. And they continued disappearing, running away, until at a certain time, through God's grace, we were able to settle a few. But most of them, those who came, you know what, they were elderly boys, because we are dealing with only the boy child. Then you see their age was far beyond the children, small children. And so you can just really imagine the type of group that I was having. And they could behave in all manner of ways as they were doing in the street. But I kept the grace of God that He had given me. And I told God to hold my hand so that I would do His work. And not because of any pay, but just to touch that somebody, to touch that boy who can really change and become somebody. So it was all about keeping on by the grace of God.
Amazing. I'm coming back to you because I've gotten something interesting there. And allow me to get to Peter. There's something that she has mentioned about going and running away, because I want to believe when these kids are being taken there, they don't take it like I'm going to a place of help. They take it like I'm going to be caged. A piece of a certain world have been taken away from me, and now I'm going to be caged somewhere. How did you find yourself at Utugi, and how did you take it?
I'll start answering your question by this simple quote by the guy called Miles Monroe.
Yeah.
He wrote one of the amazing book called Understanding Your Potential. Now this guy says there are three kind of people. There are people who make things happen. These are the billionaires of the world.
Okay.
There are people who see things happening. This happens to people who are next to billionaires.
Okay.
So they see billionaires doing something, and then, yeah, it's happening.
Let me try.
And then there is interesting kind of people. These are people who have no notion of whatever was happening. or whatever is happening. You just wake up one morning and you find out, we have a new governor, we have a new what, you see, eh? So you just see things and you don't know how they happen.
Everything finds you as a surprise.
Exactly. Now, for me, I was this kind of a person, growing from a person who knew nothing, no notion of whatever was happening, to where I am. It has taken kind of a lot of input.
Yeah.
First of all, this is how I landed in mwea. I was born in Embu, and I was born in a family that was kind of at war. My mom and my dad, they were never together. I never saw them together since I was born.
Yeah.
There was always some quarrels. And again, my mom didn't go along with my grandmother. So again, there was a kind of disconnection. And then here comes my dad dies when I was at the age of around 7 years. And my mom struggled with sickness since I was born to a point where she had to go for surgery.
Yeah.
And she went to surgery in mwea, and we had no means whatsoever of taking care of her. So me and my my 3 sisters, I'm the youngest. So we found ourselves here in mwea because we had to follow her. After the surgery, it was very much uncomfortable for her to go back in Embu. So she launched up in a church. That time the church was called the Church of Nazarene. It's dissolved from Nazarene to something else, and then it's no longer in mwea. So that's where we started. So when we went there, we found mom was sleeping in a store somewhere, and she's not in a way she could feed us. So we had to look for other means. My 2 sisters had completed Form 4, and so they were lucky to get some job here and there. And then now there was me at the age of 12. I need to survive, I need to see my mom eat, and I need to eat as well. So we came up with an initiative that mom could help us cook the porridge, and then we could sell the porridge here. So deep down in my soul, I knew I needed work. So I wanted to work, earn a coin, and support my mom.
At 12.
So yes, I would go from place to place looking for work. I would arrive at a shop, and this guy would be like, this is child labor. Siandikangi watoto, rudi shule usome.
Wow.
I would go to sell a porridge to someone, and they would say, mbona hauko shule?
Yeah.
Nitakustaki kwa chifu. Now I had a very bad experience with chief. I was once cleaned in front of our school and forced to say, mimi ni mwizi, after sleeping hungry for almost 2 days, and I saw some bananas somewhere. So I was caught in the act, and then it was somewhere near the school gate. So you could see the multitude.
Yeah.
And I knew chiefs are not good people.
They are good.
So
Okay.
that one deep down in my soul used to threaten me and scare me to death.
I know.
So I also wanted, whenever I went to a place and I was told, you are a child, you need to grow, get somewhere, and get a job. So my aim was to go, eat, grow big, and get a job. When I was just loitering at these streets of mwea, I met a man, a guy. At that time, they were doing bicycle bodas. So this guy asked me, my former school where I was, we used to school with shorts, the green shorts, just like Diba. So when this guy saw me in a short, of course it was tattered. He asked me, mbona umetoka shule uko huku unauza uji? And then I was like, I even don't know here. And I gave him my story.
Yeah.
And the guy sympathized with me na akaniuliza, unaweza taka kusoma? And I told him, yes, I would like to kusoma. So the guy directed my mom to a children's officer here in mwea. So I supported my mom. My mom could barely walk. So after tulifika hapo kwa ofisi, I told my mom, you're going to stay here outside. I'm going to talk with the officer. So I went inside. We had a chat with the officer. And then the officer was like, I had carried all my books, everything I had for schooling, the tattered uniform and everything. And then the officer looks at me and asks me, where is your mom? And I told him, my mom is here outside. Go call your mom. So I don't know what they talked with my mom, and I landed in Otugi. When I was landing in Otugi, and I found out that I could have a meal in the morning, lunchtime, and evening.
That's
I was
revival.
surprised. And I had this thought of, hii chakula nitakula mpaka nikuwe mkubwa.
Oh God.
So my aim going there was not muscle learning, but getting food, nikuwe mkubwa, nikatafute kazi. I had left school at class 6.
Wow.
So I knew when I'm going to school, I'm going to go to class 7. And then things worked. Sometimes we might be bitter by how things work, but sometimes they work for the good of those trust the Lord.
Absolutely.
So after being out of school for several months, it was almost that month of the year, almost in March. It was in February, we were going to March. And Madam was going from school to school, looking for a position for me to be in school.
Wow.
So she was lucky to go to Grubani Primary, but akaambiwa the position for class 5, 6, 7, and 8 are full. And then the head teacher is like, uko na mtoto unaweza leta class 4, huyo tutachukua. So mwalimu comes back to me, orders a new uniform to me, and then she tells me, nimepata chance ya class 4.
No.
Pause.
Wow.
We go back again. My aim was to eat, grow big,
Find a job.
find a job. So going back to class 4 was a way of making sure I'm not chased out of the children's home. And the first week that I joined that class 4, we did exam on the same week.
You literally joined class 4
Yeah.
from class 6.
Yes. We did exam the same week, and within 3 weeks the result was out. I was leading. So that's where my journey began to where I am. Because since then, the teachers were so friendly, and they always care much about the best performance.
Yeah.
And because nilirudishwa 4, I led from class 4 all the way to 7, unbeatable. Number 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I barely studied.
You're just doing revision, literally.
Yes.
It's a recap of what you had before.
Yeah. So that's how I landed to Otugi.
Wow. Wow. I think that is so amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, thank you for answering question number 1. And of course, now there is the question number 2, because there's something that she mentioned, and actually it's nice that you did not see it as a cage and like probably the street. I don't know, but maybe there is a difference between them that come from families and them that are coming from the street. Maybe what is the difference?
I will answer that question with this one answer. It's more of a rhetorical question. Do you know how hard it is to tame a lion?
Oh, yeah.
Take it from the wildlife, bring it at home,
You're
and teach it to eat food that you give. You do a goat, a section of the goat you give the lion. So eventually, lion will seem to be in control.
Sure.
And then after some times, it snaps out.
Amazing.
So in this relation, we've been here outside looking out for ourselves. we've indulged in so many things, including drugs and other things. We already have a family in the streets where you feel like you belong. Maybe at some point you are a leader of a certain family, or you are close to a leader.
Yeah.
So you kind of associate yourself with so much things. And then you're taken from the streets and you're institutionalized to a home.
A
where
system
now,
literally that
yes,
you're not used to.
a system where you have to wake up at this time, do this, you have to eat this, and here is where you sleep, and these are the rules to follow. So at some point, you lack to understand the essence of you being there for the purpose of the freedom.
Yeah.
We all like freedom. We all like doing what we want, how we want it, and we really like to be followed. So not until you take out the lion in us that cannot be tamed, you
Easily.
can never help that person.
Wow. Madam Shelby, because you have experienced that picking, boys from the streets and also picking from families that we are not able to support them. What have been the challenge? What have been the experience for you?
Okay, for the two issues, and there is a difference.
Yeah.
Because the child from the street, the boy from the street, has been experiencing very difficult situations
Yeah.
without somebody who is reading him or her.
Yeah.
And he's all alone on the streets. You can imagine what happens on the streets. You see, the street life is very, very difficult.
Very cruel.
This person
literally.
has nowhere to call home or somebody to cater for him. This somebody does not know, like Peter is saying, where to get the meal. So first of all, we started with those who are really getting from the whatever, the pits and
Yeah.
whatever, scavenging. And then this person, when he gets something to eat from whatever he has scavenged, tomorrow he doesn't know what will happen. You see the harassment from people, the community, the society, the harassment from the government officers, like
Yeah.
the police. They go through very difficult times. And now this person is the one you have taken in. First of all, you have to do with modification of behavior, because he will not change because he has come to the home.
Yeah.
You must do the work of modifying the behavior through guidance, through counseling, through giving and teaching the morals, through teaching the one or the Bible, and through so many things. So we had to group them and do some group therapies, individual counseling, all those things, so that we can first of all modify through rehabilitation the behavior. So when we get those ones from the street, we had to stay for 8 months doing the rehabilitation, because you cannot just pick a person and take them to a classroom. It will be very difficult. So we must do the rehabilitation first. When you find that the behavior is a bit modified and now he is sober, like Peter has said, they have taken drugs from the streets. So you must also do things that will help him.
Erase that.
And teach the essence of not going back to the drug abuse. So that rehabilitation is the most difficult, because you must look for programs, identify areas that you are going to deal with to make this person a better person who can fit in a classroom. And this one from home, like Peter was saying, he had a mother, he had a father.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, it was not easy. And the mother had to come to, let's say, also to the street, because they were also in the street. The porridge was being sold. He was loitering, selling the porridge. So he's also gathering some of the things from there. But he has somebody who is instilling some values as a parent. So there is always a difference. And I remember it was quite very difficult, because Peter joined after we had stayed for about, how many years? I cannot remember.
From 2005 to 2012.
2012, and we had started in 2005. And why I'm saying that one was very difficult, we started with the street boys, direct from the street. And you can imagine, Madam, we didn't have anything in that institution saying this is the food that you'll be eating, saying these are the clothing that you'll be,
And
will be wearing.
rehabilitation for these
And
kids.
and I remember, because I had a son, I had a son that time, my firstborn, and he was, I think he was going now to Form 1. Yeah, he was going to Form 1. And I remember some of them, we had now clothing that they could wear. And they have come from the street with tartan clothes and dirty. I had to go back to my house, take some of the shirts and bring to them. And so they were big, they could try to fit, and they were not even buttoning, because my boy was a bit smaller. So let me say, those who are from the street, it's a bit difficult. But I'm saying through God's grace and perseverance and having faith that in this life there is a purpose for you to work for the Lord. What will you tell the Lord at the last minute?
Amazing.
Maybe to add something to what she has said. When I was selling porridge in this street of mwea, before I met the Buddha guy, we used to call him Benten. I still don't know where he is. I've been looking for him.
Through the screen,
He's called Benten. He started with a Buddha bike and then graduated to a motorbike. The last time I saw him, he was on a motorbike. When I was selling the porridge, I had reached to a point, and I asked myself, what's the essence of living? Mostly, when we would sell porridge, you remember you can't always exhaust the stock.
True.
So sometimes you might cook one mtungi of porridge and then sell half of it. So the other, because now you can't keep this porridge for tomorrow, you'll just destroy your customers. They won't do your porridge again. My mom used to send me, enda na vikombe uwekee wale chukura wako pale. So most of the time, I used to feed them with porridge. So after going all my rounds, whatever is left, I would give it to them. And at some point, we connected with them. We could chat, we could do what. So to some point, I had this crazy thought of, because after selling the porridge, I would go back collecting the cups and also collecting the money. And pesa was not so much, so we used to do cash mostly. So I had this crazy thought of, I would wake up one morning with that mtungi of porridge, go sell the porridge, take the money, and run away.
Wow.
That thought, I found it crazy. To some point, I went to pick the coins, and then I found out that my sister had picked the coins.
Wow.
And I went to Dhiba. You see this Dhiba, my dad alianguka kwa waterfall when he was drunk. Till then, I still hate alcohol.
Don't stop.
I went to that river, and I wanted to rush the river, drop myself, and flow with the river. And I started to run. To some point, this river, I don't know how I can explain that spot, but you see where Mariko is? There's a road that crosses there, inaenda mpaka kwa mto place inaoshangwa tractors. I used to go there, sit and gaze the environment. You could see the rice fields, the trees, the flowing of the river. And I started my journey there. I was running towards the river. Only just a few meters before nifike kwa mto, sijui ni nini iliniteka. Nilianguka hapo na nikaumia. I went home limping. That's where I started. The point is, I was almost snapping.
Wow.
And I think I would conform to the same story and pattern. If I snapped before I landed there,
Probably.
it's the same rehabilitation.
Yeah.
And maybe I would never be the same.
Wow. Wow. That is really amazing. And of course, when you're speaking of family, allow me to go there, because I don't know his definition of family. I don't know how he could relate with you people, because now he has been introduced to a whole different, system. And this system is not just a system that is relating with the need him, but it's a system that can relate with his destiny, the man that he's supposed to be. And I believe that is the reason why you could literally go to school finding an opportunity for him. How have it been for you? You're not just taking children, you're not just taking young ones and seeing them from their point of need, but you're also, there is that thing that pushes you to relate to the destinies of these people. How have it been for you, and how do you do that, such that probably you're dealing with someone who have felt there is nothing that can come out of me? When he speaks of, I think I just deserve to die. How has it been for you to transform this particular thought, this particular mindset, to bringing them to the place where they can relate with the big men and the big, probably, people they're supposed to be?
Okay, that's a nice question. What I've mentioned earlier on that we have programs.
Yeah.
Programs that we do because of them. Like we have that one that we teach the life skills. We teach them life skills according to the programs and according to their ages at that first initial stage. Then we have counseling that we do to them as per the child's need. So we do the counseling and then show them the need to achieve what they need in their life.
Yeah.
So they go through the process of counseling. They go through the process of group therapies, so that they even understand themselves.
Yeah.
And they understand who they are, and they also understand where they want to be and where they want to go. So it's a journey that we move with them step by step, and also teaching them even the instilling values, the Christian values, that you help them to grow. You help them to make better decisions for themselves in their later lives. So we put the big picture at the front, and then we walk the journey until the achievement. That's what we do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Let me get to hear from your side, Peter. And I want to believe there is a certain place you were living a life of self-pity. And especially when you remember where you left your mother, the situation at home and all that thing. But now you've been put in a place where you're not just reasoning with the poor Peter, with the needy Peter, but now you have been put to a place whereby you can trust your next step, you can trust your tomorrow, you can believe again about your growth and all that thing. How did it come to happen? And when did it come to happen? How long did it take to happen to overcome that self-pity life?
It took me a while, but I would say most of the things almost came naturally in this sense. When I went back to class 4, I was battling a lot of things. One of them was hopelessness. The other one was depression in terms of breakdown, like family breakdown. I used to see myself like a very useless person. So my self-esteem grew weak. When I was joining class 4 and after I performed my whole of Form 4, starting from the first exam I had 354, and then the next exam I had 430, being followed by number 2 who was at 360. So, and then checking at my level of maturity, I'm supposed to be in class 4, but I'm studying the people who are from class 3 now to 4. So there was a kind of an age gap that you couldn't identify. My height was quite small, and my body was small. So in terms of height and body language, almost the same. But there was certain kind of maturity that teacher could see in me. I rarely do those children games in class, playing with papers and so on. So they used to see something in me that I couldn't see it in myself. So I remember this one time when the class teacher suggested that I should be the prefect. I fought it from class 4 to class 5, still resisting. I don't want to be a prefect. I don't want to be a prefect.
Maybe you can tell us why.
This is the reason. Being brought up, I used to see myself as inferior.
Wow.
I was battling it's called inferiority complex. I didn't picture myself standing before people and telling them something. I didn't use, I never used to value myself. And at some point, I even had difficulty introducing myself that nimetoka Utugi. In that area, most of the people used to refer, at that time, used to refer Utugi, Boma ya Chokora.
Wow.
So
because
they
it's
used,
for the street children.
yeah, so they used to identify us as Chokoras. So no matter how much you've reformed, as long as you're associated with Otugi, they used to say, huyu
Umetoka
kijana ni yule wa Chokora. That was one. Number two, checking at how people are living in my class versus what I think I'm living. These are people who are coming from families. These are people who are saying, oh, dad bought me this, mom bought me this. And given the situation that Shelmi, there's our mom, she has like 40 of us.
She
So-
can only give what she can manage.
Exactly. And we could hear talk them stories of kubebwa na gari, nini, which was annoying to us. So I also went through identity crisis.
I know.
Before I came to realize myself, you see these opportunities that you get, unaingia Facebook, nini. I registered my Facebook nikiwa class 5. There's a guy in our class, alikuwa anaitwa Hussein. Now Hussein had a phone. So, and Hussein was one of my best friends. So ni yeye alinisaidia na simu, nika login, nikajiita Peter Barak kwa Facebook. So, and since then, from that time, I fought identity crisis mpaka nikamaliza form 4. And even I struggled with it a little bit in campus, year 1 and 2. People there at school, they know me as Peter mostly. Few of them knew me as Barak juu ya Facebook na nini, kuandika majina kwa kitabu. Sometimes I would call myself Sergeant Peter. I'll tell you where that dream came from. And then when I went to high school, majority of my teachers and a majority of my peers, they know me as Shamga. I'll also tell you where that came from. And then from there, I went to campus. Now 90% of the students in campus, they know me as Nyox. So you can clearly see from there to campus, no one knows my real name. Because I really didn't want to associate. I really didn't want them to know my name and so what, where I came from. Yeah, exactly. But now my turn point came in class 5. I would say that was a stepping stone. Mrs. Chege, there were several Cheges, so we used to call him Chege 2. We used to give them numbers, Chege 1, Chege 2. So Mrs. Chege was the class teacher by then.
So back in Gurubani Primary.
In Gurubani Primary, in class 5. So Mrs. Chege came to class and said, from today, she didn't ask me, she knew I would say no. So she said, from today, Peter, you are the class prefect. And then after seeing my reaction on that, she added, nataka kukutafutia mtu atakuwa anakusaidia. So akaangalia hivyo, she chose a lady. Kasema certain girl atakuwa anakusaidia. Wewe utaanza na compound. So I was given the task of making sure that the compound is swept and that the class is clean and the flowers are watered. Then the other one would write noisemaker. Because she knew I will never write noisemakers. For one reason, I didn't love the idea of conflicting with people.
Yeah.
I was never a noisemaker.
And then they remind you where you're coming from.
Yeah, exactly. So I avoided so much. I also didn't want to stand in front of people and give direction. And I struggled that till class 8. In class 8 is when I stood up, said a prayer, and they only had amen. It was interesting. So since then, I could see myself, nimeenda nikapata pahali hapajafagiliwa. Nikitafuta mtu wa kufagia hapo, nasikia mwenye anafagianga hapo hajakuja shule hiyo siku. So I would take the broom and sweep. I would take the broom.
The sense of delegation was not literally.
Yeah, I sweep and go. Sometimes there's a flower not watered for even more than a week. Nasikia mwenyewe, sijui alienda wapi, hayuko. I take a jerrycan, fetch water from the river. We used to go for water in the river.
Yeah, I remember.
Fetch, come water, and stay in class. Until one of the social study teachers, he never used to teach me so much, but when our teacher was not in place, he used to come replace them. I remember him asking me, wewe ni kiongozi, you are like the president of this class. Ukinyamaza hivo uone ni kama huyu niye mrefu sana, wewe okota ile paper weka hapo, you are supposed to do that. Akikataa kuja kwa wangu niambie, nimeambia so and so, akote ile karatasi aeke kwa dustbin, akakataa. So from since then, nikipata place haijaswipiwa, I used to check the neighbor on this side and neighbor on this side. Wewe ufagie nusu, wewe ufagie nusu. I started growing from there to a level of leadership, changing my mentality, na nikaanza kuona it's more than eating to education. And then I had a lot of pressure with my teachers. We want you to achieve this, we want to achieve this. At some point, when I was dropping my grades in class 7, I had a very serious complication of health due to depression. Nilikuwa na ulcers. I could just stand somewhere and faint, nini, and so on. So I was fighting all that, and my grades were falling. My class teacher, Mrs. Mwangi, I remember him telling us, wewe Kimathi, this time, ukipata 400 na kulipia tour. There was a tour which was 1 month ahead. And I did work hard.
I know with the
until
tour
I scored a
ahead.
401. And I was accorded a tour to go visit the Seven Forks. It was
Wow.
very amazing. So I would say those are stuff that made me go on. Again, in the home, there were a lot of disciplines. I remember this one time, you know, the problem with people who live together, people who identify themselves as family and a group, mwezi salitiana.
You know.
And whenever you do that, you would receive a cold war. Unaamka asubuhi, ulifua nguo, unashangaa mbona haikukauka. Kumbe mtu aliamka asubuhi, kairudisha kwa maji. So you really avoided getting in loggerhead with people. You just live your own life. Try your best. So I remember this one time, there was a mzee, tulikuwa tunaita se. Alikuwa anapanda miwa just across the home. And we used to go snatch those sugar canes and do the sugar canes. And we used to call her mwalimu. Up to now, we still call her mwalimu. Mwalimu was very furious about those things. Na alikuwa anasema, most of the time ukishikwa na miwa, ulikuwa unasema umepewa na se. Anakwambia if se anataka kupeana miwa, aende akate, akuje nayo ku kitchen tuwapee sisi. Because now ile siku umepewa na hujapewa hawezi jua. And this one time alinipata na miwa just across the river. There are 2 older boys who were doing their clothes hapo kwa canal. And then wao miwa yao walikuwa wameficha wamalize kufua nguo ndio wakule. Mimi sikuwa na nguo za kufua, so I was enjoying my sugar cane facing the other side. So I didn't see her coming. When they saw her, they continued doing their work like nothing is happening until I was caught. And I was like, panda hii mti juu, kate kiboko yako.
Wow. Na hawezi wasema?
Nitawasema, mi hata sikujua hiyo miwa ilikuwa imetoka wapi. Juu niliwapata na miwa wakanikatia. So it was like, mimi nimeomba miwa ama nimepata miwa imeanguka pahali, unatandikwa peke yako, you're given a punishment, and that's all. This is another scenario about the discipline and that rehabilitation. I remember mngepatana na mwalimu kwa pavement huku, anajifanya hajakuona na hajakuona kabisa, na hata mnaweza pitana umuone kwa kona ujifiche. Yeye amekuona. She used to know us hata hapa na Kisoko. Kuna Kisoko hata unajua,
I know that.
this one is Peter. Na hata sema, na hata mnaweza pitana na msalimiane, mtapatana huko. Now mnapatana huko, wewe unadhani mwalimu hakukuona. Lakini alikuona na akajifanya hajakuona. Unasikia, Peter, leo umeshinda wapi?
We are talking of streets outside the school.
Yeah, you escaped the home without permission.
Kumbe you also used to escape.
Yeah, you know, at some point, if you enclose a cat somewhere, a cat will always want to know.
Curiosity.
Yes, what's beyond the wall. So we would escape. Go in the town, just loiter around, see the new TVs, listen to music, huko kwa maduka, masimama pali, you hear the music, unaenjoy, ndio unarudi. Sometimes ungesimama pahali kwa a movie shop, unaanza kuona movie ukiwa pahali kwa mlango until you forget the time of reporting back. And utafika hapo umwambie, nimeshinda huku, nimekutafuta sijakuona, nilikuwa sijui wapi, kwa dom, nyuma ya choo, nini. And then akuuliza, uliniona pahali fulani and fulani, and now you know you're hooked up. And you'd receive your kins, your punishment, and this went on until you reformed. Now you have a sense of a discipline. This is what I should do. This is not what I'm not supposed to do. So I would say all this, it's a long journey. If I was to talk, I would talk hours and hours up to a place where I knew it is me, myself, and I, if that English is correct. So that's my transformation journey.
Amazing, amazing. Madam Shelmith, there are people who will define a family as a father and mother, probably being where your siblings are and all that. But now you have been given people who you need to clothe with love. You need to make them feel whole. You need to cover every gap a father will not cover, every gap a mother will not cover, a gap that a sister will not cover. And you literally have to give these particular people a good package to feel we are where we belong. Maybe you can tell us, how have it been to be a father, a mother, at the same time for this particular young man?
Wow, it has really been not easy. It has been difficult. And remember, you are working for boys.
Yeah.
And you can hear how tricky they are. And at one time, I was the cook, I was the caretaker, I was the social worker, and as he's mentioning, they call me Mwarim. I was the teacher. Because I told you I had to stay with them through rehabilitation until at the point that you find now they are able to join a class.
They're also coming with assignments.
Yes, yes. So you try your best to understand their emotions. You give them rough. You understand when they are at their lowest point and know how you are going to lift them up. And also understand you are also going through challenges.
I know.
Because it is quite difficult. Quite difficult, my friend. So you are also having your own issues. And now you have the issues which are very difficult for the children. So it is, that's why I'm saying it is God. This far that we have walked, it is God. Because almost every day especially because we started in 2005. For the first 3 years, I always said, tomorrow morning, I will not be here. I am going to quit this job. It
Are
is
you
difficult
serious?
because Peter can tell you that there are other boys that you take in and they are Njiga infected. Because they are on the street, they don't wash, they don't, you see all those things. What are you going to do when you get a boy who is infected with jiggers? You have to take care of that boy. You have to remove them and wash that boy. You see, from the street, they don't care. They just want, and they don't love, when the boys are in the street, they don't love washing themselves. So you can imagine making them to clean their bodies and their clothing. I'm saying you also have your own issues. You also have your own challenges. But you must ask for God's grace, real grace, to go through with these children. Your emotions, their challenges, and especially the emotions. You see, you have brought them from now the environment they were used to. You have brought them in a new environment.
Sure.
And that's why Peter is saying most of them always escaped. They escaped. But when they went back to the street, they found here it is not as comfortable as there. Here they'll miss food, but here they won't get it. So it is a journey that I even can't tell how I went through it up to that point, but it was really difficult. We also do the case studies when the children come in, when you take them from the streets. You know, we are governed by the Children's Act 2001. And we are guided by 3 principles, that the child must participate, non-discrimination, and then you work to the best interest of the child.
Yeah.
To the best interest of the child means that you have to take care of this child in every aspect of his life. So let me say, I don't understand how it really went through, or how we really reached at this point where Peter now has graduated with a bachelor's in nursing. And we have others who have also graduated from the universities. We have another one who is a clinical officer, also having his own clinic. So I don't know how we really made it, but I can only say it is through God's grace. We have seen very great achievements at Totugi through the grace of God. And believing and having faith that God is really the one who drives us. And all what I know is, you touch a person, that's what the Bible says.
Yeah.
God will also touch you. He has also personally touched me in very many ways. And at times, you saw I also had a family which was growing. And I said my son, firstborn son, was going to the secondary, to Form 1 when we started. So we were also engaged as a family. When we were, because sometimes we will be at Tutugi, we will engage them, and he's a witness that my lastborn was also growing among them and grew with them as a sister. So I'm saying it is a journey that the Lord has taken us through, miles that we cannot even explain. Even as we are talking, we cannot really explain how we got to that point. And then I also see our clergy, our bishop, they have really done great, supporting the home and looking for ways to really experience the children going through the grace of God and through the education. Because when we take in a child, you note it is according to the achievements that he wants, like Peter. Ni pahari atafika yeye mwenyewe. You don't say that hapa tutawapeleka mpaka grade 8 ama form 1 ama form 2 ama form 4. So also that I thank our bishop for that support. And I'm very grateful up to where we are.
Amazing.
It is really amazing.
Amazing.
We love God, and we are proud of what God has done for us. A lot we cannot explain here, like Peter is saying.
We are limited by time.
Yeah, it's true.
Wow. I thank God, because literally I literally want to keep on listening and listening to the beautiful testimonies. And I've gotten something from him, and of course I would love you to talk about it. Some of the challenges that these people go through, and I want to believe, you know, a street child is a street child, whether in Mwea or in any other town.
Yeah.
An orphan is an orphan, whether in Mwea or in any other town. And I want to believe there are certain things that they go through that they can relate, whether from whatever city you are coming from. I got depression is one of the things that he was going through. Identical crisis is also another thing that he was going through. Feeling inferior is another thing that he was going through. And as I think I've related with a few people that have grown in that kind of an environment. And one thing that you cannot deny from this, they are very defensive. They are very defensive, and probably it's because they always feel like we have nobody to protect us. And sometimes, even when it comes to you, even if you want to stretch your helpful hand, they always feel like you owe us no, you know, generosity and all that thing. The world does not owe us anything, probably because of where they are coming from. And definitely, you're going to be speaking to that person. But before that, I want you to get, how do you manage to get these people overcoming that? Because like he said, until they get to realize that they also have a life, and their life is not depending on, I was picked from the street, or I came from a family that did not have a mother or a mother, or I came from whatever darkness I came from. Until they come to that place, they will never see the sense of you in their lives. They will never see the sense of Otugi in their lives. How do you get to that place where you have to make these people feel you have a life, you're coming from somewhere we don't deny, but I want you to see yourself a different kind of a person, even overcome some of these challenges? Because I want to believe there are people who are not doing well in life today in the mindset of, I did not have what it takes. You know, I did not have a father. I did not have I'm glad he's speaking about going to campus. And I want to believe he is somewhere that probably he never pictured himself based on where he was coming from. There are so many people, even till today, they are suffering identity crisis. They never got a chance to be in Otugi probably. Maybe they are also even in families, but violent families. But you as a parent who have experienced this kind of people, this, you know, group of people, what can you say about it?
Okay, what I can say, maybe, you know, when we are helping these children, you cannot, you are also remittent. You cannot do so much and even what they would expect. But one thing we do, like I said in counseling, we encourage them. What we call the talk therapy. Talk therapy of their experience, of their denial, of their feeling unaccepted. You see, they will talk their stories, they will talk their issues. But here I want to say this, the boy child, the male gender, is a bit difficult in talking out their issues. So you just try your best so that they talk their issues. You know, it's like when you have your malaria and you feel the warmth, you feel that you are really feeling bad, and when you vomit, you feel relieved. That's what the example I always give them. That they talk those things that they feel they are really bitter, because they have a lot of bitterness. A lot of bitterness there in themselves, bitterness with the family members, because these people from in the streets, not that most of them have families, but the neglect, the abandonment, the broken families, all those, the domestic violence, some of the things, and the death of their parents, like Peter is saying about all those things, they affect them, and they are not able to deal with them themselves. So until they pour out themselves and then accepting this is it is Coca-Cola and this is water, and these are two different things. So what would I do for myself? I accept that I am Peter. Yes, I was in the street selling porridge. So what next? So that's how we help them, so that they can realize themselves, realize that they have come from somewhere, leave the past, although not really forever, but then put ahead
a life
that there is something, a vision that they can aspire for, a vision that they can really
try to get. So we always tell them, and especially me, that to keep their vision at the front, and then ask yourself, so what? That is what I need, that white flower. So what shall I do?
Yeah.
Shall I just sit here? No, I must move one step, another, until I get. Yeah. So that's how we deal with them, encouraging them, talking to them, doing those programs, the psychosocial support system, and then we help them to understand themselves, understand it's true, they had challenges. So are they just going to sit there? They must do something. So they wake up and walk the journey. Us, we didn't just support. I always give them an example of the banana stem, that when it gets the bunch of the banana, you see at times it becomes heavy. So what do? You just support it. So we tell them, as we are really just supporters, supporting them, you to walk the journey. Yeah.
That's amazing. You want to say something?
Maybe to open a different point from what she said, but of course a point to complement what she said. The issue of identity crisis, it's a very hard issue to solve. As well as we say, you need to keep pushing externally, but deep within themselves, they need to do something. So when I was in primary, it's where my identity crisis happened, and actually identity crisis mostly happens because of losing your value. Like I said, I do poems. I have a YouTube channel at Dr. Munyoki the Poet, and one of my poems leaves a line that I've used there. That every day for me is a championship day. It doesn't matter whether I lose or gain. What matters is that I complete my race at my own pace. Now, after suffering a lot in primary with identity, I didn't like to be associated myself with the home. I didn't want to really open up and say what I'm really going through. So I went to Meru School, high school in Meru, still with the same. So when I was there, I thought about it and said, no, I need a solution to this. So I was looking for a name that will not identify me, where I am, my tribe, and what I've gone through. You believe me, right? When I tell you it's very hard to have a Kamba name, but you don't know how to speak Kamba language because your dad was the one who was responsible to make sure that you know Kamba. But he was not there when I was growing, of which I came to understand him later, that it was a default. It wasn't possible, so I shouldn't keep on blaming him. Alongside with his relatives, most of my relatives from my dad's side, I know less than 1%. So you see these stories of how you can marry your cousin without knowing. It can happen to me. Thank God it's not happening. Now, when I went to Form 1, I was looking for a name that wouldn't identify me with Kamba or Kikuyu. So I came up with a name, Shamga. Shamga is a judge of Israel. I didn't know much about Shamga, but the name Shamga just looked appealing to me, and it was kind of cool, I thought. So all my boxes, I named them Peter Shamga. So when I was in a dormitory, most of my friends knew me as Peter Shamga. When we were introducing ourselves, together with all the Form 1, we were 430 of us. I used to identify myself as Peter Shamga. Now, from Form 1 to Form 4, the only people who knew my name is my teachers, because of course I have to write my real name in the marking sheet, and my immediate classmates. But they never used my real name. They are used to Shamga. Since I introduced myself as Shamga, and before we did our first exam, we had about almost 3 to 4 months. So which means your name had already stuck in their head. And from Form 1 to Form 4, I was known as Shamga everywhere I go. So even if I meet someone somewhere, Anita Shamga, I know this is my high school friend. So I graduated from middle school, and I went to Daystar University. And then I realized Shamga is not doing well. It's literally not doing well. And it came as a result to a camp that I went. It was a Pan-African camp. Madam Shelmi had suggested my name to be there in somewhere around Chakaranj.
Yeah.
And we were there for 3 days. And that's where I raised my confidence, and I learned more about leadership and so on. To a point I started healing in a positive way instead of running away from myself. So I decided to run towards myself. And this is when I did some modification to my surname, Munyoki. Nikatoa M na U, ikakuwa Nyok, alafu nikaeka S, ndio ikuwe Nyoks. So Nyoks was a way of running away from myself, but
Wow.
indirectly.
Wow. So anybody can think it's a name thing, but you're fighting something from within. Wow.
As a journey of fighting, I realized one of my personality is sanguine. I like making jokes even where I'm not supposed to be making the
Kama
jokes.
zishi.
And so having this name like Nyoks, it's kind of charming, and promoted my behavior to a point that it wasn't cool anymore. So through the through the campus life, I came to realize I needed to stick back to my name. So I went to my social media platforms and changed my name from Nyoks to Munyoki and Peter, and where Kimanzi was needed, I included it. And that's the point I started reflecting back to myself. So whenever I see a person fighting identity crisis, it's more of what kind of a value can you give to your name?
Yeah.
So if you find something that you can do and give your name a value, it makes sense and you will stop running from myself. The poetry I started doing in Form 2 gave me a value. I would go to a CU meeting and people would suggest my name, Shamga, a poem, unaona. Sometimes you'd go to a congregation somewhere, and when the MC is reading presentation, I hear my name. I don't know who submitted my
I'm
name.
loving what you're saying,
So
literally.
I just went and performed, and everyone was happy about me. After every school gathering, I would have like almost 10 people or more asking me about my journey as a poet, what are my inspiration, and so on. You know, when you're fighting inferiority complex, and then you are asked by someone, what's your inspiration? I'm like, am I even inspired? So you start having a new value
Yeah.
to yourself. So if you can get something that you can do and feel appreciated, at long last we all like appreciation. It's a whole lot of topic that we can do about appreciation. That's why most of us are running away from school in campus and to drugs and so on, because you go to where you feel appreciated. If you're not appreciated home, you would even take a step of lying your parent atujafunga bado na ubaki shule, because you feel valued there, to the clubs, to the party and so on. So if you look for that one thing that you can do to add a value to yourself, you're going to fight it.
Let me get a bit personal with Madam. And of course, because it has been a journey where you had to embrace a whole different thing, you know? Now, to some point, you're not doing it because you've been asked to do it. You're doing it because literally there's a spirit of the Lord that is literally pushing you to do it. And I'm curious, are there things that you abandoned at a personal level to ensure this particular assignment comes to happen? Is there a certain part of you, is there a certain part of, I don't know what it is, maybe your family, what did it cost even to embrace this at a personal level? What can you look at and say, like, if I had continued with this, I would not have produced this? Is there anything that you can look back and say, I abandoned this? It was not important, but I left it because what I was or rather, what was expected of me when we look at you today could not have allowed that to go on with you?
Yes, I can say. I said at the beginning that I didn't say that. I think
Yeah.
that I had a home, I had my home in Embu,
Boma.
boma yangu
Uh-huh.
na watoto. So at first when we started, there were no houses in the institution. So I can say I abandoned even some of my children. 2 of them were in secondary school, in Form 1, as I said. But there was another smaller one who was in class 5. So I abandoned that girl of mine. That's why I don't even know sometimes what to say. Left her at Embu and came to Otugi. And because there were no houses in Otugi, they had to sleep in a classroom, which had been put up, and I had to sleep in the kitchen. And I have left my girl with the father to come. Because sometimes I don't really understand what was happening to me. But that was I did. I abandoned that. Although later on, I had, when they put, somebody came and put up a house for the person who is in there. And then, so I went back now to get the little girl I had left with the father. And then the father was sometimes God's plan and issues. He was working in far stations. He was in Masabet, he was in Meru, he was in Isiolo, he was in Kitui. I think that helped me still.
Yeah, be comfortable with what you are doing.
Yeah, but later on after 1.5 years, I went and back and came now with a girl who now started school here. And so you see, in a home setup, you have even farming, you have other things that you are doing.
Yeah.
So I abandoned all that for the
Yeah.
sake of Utugi. And at a certain point, I started feeling, I think I'm not okay. And when my mother visited, she came and asked me, she mentioned jina yangu, Wawera, is this what you have chosen?
Wow.
And I was wondering, what shall I tell her? I said yes. Then she told me, I leave you. At a point, I would also think, I am either crazy or something. I want to go back.
You want to do your life.
Yeah. But something always kept pulling me. And in my instinct, I could hear a voice asking me, if you want to leave these children, who will work for them? And then I could pull again and now stay. I was always stuck once, going, leaving, and staying. But at a certain time, I told God, teach me what you want me to do.
Ah, okay.
Show me what you want me to do. And a voice told me, be settled. I am with you. So I knew all the challenges that will come along, surely God will be with me. And he didn't did up to this point.
You know, I'm asking that because probably they have someone who is there and they might be looking at what you do and they can say that you're a manager. And probably there's someone who have been there and they feel, given a chance, I would love to be the one identifying, nurturing, and bringing these particular souls to their place of fulfillment. And these particular people, they have been withheld by different reasons. How do I leave my family? How do I do my marriage with these? How do I cope with my career with these? And all those manner of things. Because I want to believe if it is God's own, he has always his own way to fund it and to ensure that it comes to happen.
Yes.
Like you are telling us. And of course, I want you maybe to speak to someone who is there, they are aspiring and they are desiring, given a chance, I would love to be that, source of impact to these particular people, or rather this group of people. And they feel like it will cost me quite a lot. And I want to believe sometimes when you are making these decisions, there is a lot of fear because you cannot always tell about tomorrow. What can you tell about to that person who is desiring, I will also want to become of impact to this group of these vulnerable people. But they look at themselves and they feel like, I think I have a lot to lose. I think I have a lot to leave back. I think I have, and I don't think I have that strength. Maybe you can speak to them.
Okay, thank you. First of all, let me say, I am the manager at Tutugi, but I didn't start as a manager.
Yeah.
I was the social worker. A social worker, I was employed as a social worker, dealing with the children's issues. There were some managers.
Yeah.
But I want to speak to that person. Maybe you have that passion. You really feel in your heart that you can do something. Or you find there is a situation that you would like to support. You feel like there is a program that you would like to start to touch God's people. Take a step. If the Israelites did not take the first step of stepping into the water, maybe the Lord would not have made the way. Take the step. I can assure you, every time you work for God, every time you take a step towards God's people, towards touching God's people, and they are saying in the Bible that you touch my people, I will also touch you. I did this with that faith that God, if you have said that if I touch somebody that you have made, you also touch me. I want to encourage you this evening that take a step and God will make a way. He has made a way for many people. He made a way for the Israelites. He made a way for the people who are serving in the Bible, and you know some of them. Just take that step and then believe in God and tell God, shall we walk with you, God? Hold my hand, and you see how far He will take you. He will bless you in very mighty ways that you will not even be able to tell. Take a step. Don't step behind. One step and God will move with you.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Before maybe we are done with you, I want to, maybe you can brief us. Is there a situation that you can look back to that really touched you? Like the way Peter has told us when he was coming there, he was coming from his own story. Is there any that you can look back that really touched you? A young man that probably you picked or was brought, or however you met the young man, that you can look at it like this was a whole, something amazing, something that I could not even imagine. Maybe a story of someone that really touched you.
Yes, I can. I stated at the beginning that what was inside my heart is because of somebody who touched me. I am the firstborn in a family of 7. But I cannot tell you my story of growth. But I can tell you the story of being touched. I was a neglected child. Not because I didn't have parents. My parents are alive up to today. But I want to say, if you go through a certain issue, it may affect you the whole of your life. This thing really affected me. And people may not understand, like Peter is saying, his story and how it has affected him. So that story of mine, I was taken in by my aunt, who took me when I was in class 3 up to when I completed my education. And she was really loving. I love her. And she believes in a big God. She taught me the teaching of the Bible. We always read the Bible with her. I will never forget her. Because were it not for her, I wouldn't be where I am. She walked the journey with me, through my education, through the ups and downs of life, up to the point of completion. And that is what made me really to love touching people. And now one day when I was at my aunt's place, there were the clergy who were going around coming to preach to people. And not that my aunt was rich. It is her passion also that made her take me in. So one day also, what ended to my liking and liking to touch others, somebody came around
And because we didn't have proper clothing, I had a tunic that had buttons up, down, and
Yeah.
up here. And they were all, I think 5 of them were not in there. So that lady came as I was standing. She asked my aunt, "Do you have an needle and a thread?" She said yes. And I don't know, in her bag she had buttons. She removed the buttons and started putting them in my dress. That really touched me. Now you can see my aunt is touching me, another person is coming and touching me through trying to clothe me. Those issues have really made me to see that I don't like seeing a child in a problem. It really puts me in a situation that troubles me. So those are the things that have really made me to feel, why should somebody suffer even if I don't have something to give in material or finances? If I can just touch him or her and say, it will be okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it will not be like that tomorrow. It will be okay. Just assuring that person, I feel fulfilled. So that's my story. I was touched. Let me touch others and wait for God's blessings.
Amazing. I'm looking forward to having this gentleman again here, and that's why I'm really, I really want to get a lot from you tonight. And you're speaking on your side.
Yes.
I want to get from the side of you receiving. Someone you received and their story was just, something else. He said that he came from a mother who was not well able. Is there someone who came to Tugi, or probably you met and you felt like this is just something divine, and you felt like it's something amazing that you love to be part of?
Yes.
Maybe you can tell us about it.
Wow, there are many, but I want to choose this
Just
one.
one.
Yeah, I want to choose this one, whereby I was going to pick a child and in a street, and when I went to and picked that child, we came over to Tugi, and when I went back to look, I told you that we go for case studies to identify or to look if we can see somebody, get somebody who can identify with this child. So we usually use the administration, the community, and if the child tells you, "Oh, I come from Kiandegwa,"
Yeah.
so you go all the way to Kiandegwa and try to look for people to identify this child until you get somebody who is connected to him. And then that child, the mother was psychotic. So this child could not understand why the mother behaves the way she behaves, going around and collecting papers, coming with the papers in a sack. So this child was always saying, and it was about 8 years up. So he was asking, even when I came for him, he was asking, "Hiyo makaratasi mam ni ya anasema anataka kuandika, lakini aandiki, anambemba tena, anapeleka tena." Na unamuuliza, na anapeleka wapi? Anaenda kugawiwa watu, anawaambia ni pesa. So you can see how much this child was affected.
Yeah.
And he was really affected, and he wanted to move with the mother round as she was going. And so even when we took him, he was always saying, "Mom, nataka kwenda kuona kama alipeleka makaratasi kwa watu." So that case really challenged me. And that child grew, was a bright child. But the worst thing that happened is that when I got, because eventually I got a contact which led me to the mother's whatever, home. And then the mother, the grandmother, asked me, "Why have you brought this back here?" I said they go with the mother. I don't want to see them here. And the child now started crying. And then we came back and talked to him, and we came back. Then we went again. We went several times. Then this boy said, "I won't go to school." let me go and stay with my mom.
Ah.
Then when we went back again, the grandmother really hurt me. I was really hurt and felt raw. Because the grandmother said, unaona hapa, usirete huyu kijana hapa tena. Nilisema waende. Hapa hata ukimuleta, hata kaburi hivi, akachora hivi, hata kaburi hapa kwangu, hatapata. So, we have had very difficult cases. I still have that boy in the home. The mother still is in town loitering because he's psychotic. What can you do? You work for this child, support him, so that maybe one day he will support himself and he will also support the mother. Sometimes it's very difficult, some situations. You even wonder, the society that we have, do they know God? That they have no value for human life? That's that.
Really touching. I thank the Lord. Wow, it takes courage. It really takes courage, even to stand in that gap. It takes courage, and I want to believe it's not in vain. God had planned it to go that way.
Yes.
God literally meant it to go that way, because at the end of the day, His will must take place, and whatever He has fashioned us to be have to take place.
Sure.
And wow, I can only say thank God for allowing yourself to be used. I literally thank God that there are still those phenomenal people like you who stand in the gap, and regardless the slaps, the beatings that the world give, you still feel, I have a reason to still stand in the gaps. I still have the reason to still show up. I have a reason to still step up and stand as the reason for these particular babies to feel they are where they belong. Because I want to believe that young man, one day, he will walk out successfully out of Otugi.
Yes, he will.
And like Peter has. And I think that will be the crown of those many hardships that you had to go through. That will be the crown of the shame, the pain, the brokenness you had to go through even at that particular point. And I'm really moved. Seriously, I'm really moved. Peter, I'm looking forward to having you again. But even before that, probably you're standing in the gap and in the position of people who have gone through that kind of, experience, which it might not be an easy experience. It is not always like, I go back to that statement you said, it was really annoying when other kids have to give their stories of their mother, their fathers, they are being driven, and probably it is not even about being driven for you, but the fact that there are people who are there for you. And they are following us right now, those kind of people. Some are following us from children's home, some are following us from their homes. They are doing their own life, but until now they are still holding that thing. I wish I had this. I wish my life had been different. I wish I came from a different place, but there is you who probably feel, I think I have gone through the right process as far as the plan of God is concerned. Maybe you can speak.
In campus. What hit me most is that in campus life was different. I had this one opportunity to grow myself exponentially, but it wasn't possible because my mind was still in a cage. And at one point, there's a speaker called Pitson. He's a singer. But that day, he came to our chapel to speak word. And he talked of these E's, 3 E's, that change the mind and life of a person. So he started with the first E, that talks about environment.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons why God told Abraham, get up go to a place, I'll show you. One of these was to change the environment. Where Abraham was, they were praising a lot of gods, and they had a lot of negative influence. So Abraham being changed from where he was to somewhere else, it's kind of changed him. And I would go back to myself and remember one time when I used to ask myself, God, why me? Why do I have to go through this?
Yeah.
Why do I have to suffer? And at some point, it became an inspiration for a poem I wrote in Form 2. And I was looking at my journey, what I went through versus the impact that it has given me. And at that point, I stopped asking God, why me? And instead, I started thanking God, thank you, because it was me.
Sure.
One time I went back to go see my grandma. I never knew, up to now I still don't know why my mom and my grandma feel so hard to get connected. And I used to go there, just visit them, say hi, and at least get to see my family, know them. And something struck me very hard when I was in class 8. At that point, you remember all my classmates now have graduated to high school. So wanakaa wakiniuliza, where did you go to school? Ulienda secondary wapi? I used to lie to them because I had no courage of telling them the truth that I repeated class 4. So at some point I used to cry, and I used to mask myself now that I'm in mwea, and they don't know me, they don't know what I'm doing, where I'm learning. And after a few years from that scenario, I started seeing them, the people that I thought were cool in my class back then. They are boda riders. Most of them walikuwa wananiomba kumia sigara, miraa, pombe, and very few of them that I could say they are going towards the right direction. Now I pictured myself, what if I never landed to mwea due to the troubles that I went through? Maybe chances are I would be one of them. Loitering in the village, doing all those kind of soul things, doing what, since they were my friends, probably alcohol, cigara, and so on. Given that I had an experience with alcohol when I was around 5 years, there's a scar on this end. I remember one time when my mom and my dad separated, I chose to remain with my dad. And then my dad was a very good mason, and there were very few of them in that area.
Wow.
So he used to work and earn a lot of money. But at the end of the day, due to the kind of depression that my dad was in, now is the time I understand what he was going through.
Yeah.
Alcohol was one of them. My dad had this one stamina. At that time, the Tusker beer, it was not served in glass bottles. It was served in plastic bottles. So he would buy a whole crate of that Tusker, aiweke kwa meza na aite wanaume. Watakunywa hiyo crate ya pombe, atakunywa ile mingi zaidi, but you'll not see him stagger. You can only know he is drunk from the smell and how he would talk. So at the end of the day, we would go there together. It was a village pub, imefunikwa tu na magunia, no walls. And after my dad is over, I would take over. You know, now you're drunk and you really can't tell, I don't know what's going on. So I used to sneak around, do a bottle, and so at the end of the day, tukienda nyumbani, sisi wawili ni walevi, na amenieka kwa mabega. So one time, tukiteremka kwa steep, ndio tupande, tulianguka hapo na yeye. And that's when my mom came and rescued me. I went with my mom now, which had a kind of an impact to my dad, and it became worse.
Yeah.
Now, given all that story and what I went through, if I remained in the same village, what story would I be telling today?
Sure.
Now that's one E, the environment. The second E that Pitson talked about is experience. I'm a nurse who have done midwifery. I did my practice in Makueni Referral Hospital, and one of the requirements was to deliver over 30 babies so that you're qualified and you're good and you passed. So I did very well in midwifery. And I can tell the mother who got into that labor ward and came out, those are very two different mothers. Thinking, acting,
Talking.
future, talking, and so on. So one of the things that changes people is the experience. The experience that you've gone through will either change you negatively or positively. At some point, I might ask myself, why me, why me?
Yeah.
And that experience leads to depression and a place of suicidal. But now if you take it positively and ask, of course you'll ask yourself, why me?
Yeah.
But also go deeper and ask yourself, what I've gone, how has it turned out, and who am I as a result of what I've gone through? The third E is the encounter. When you encounter with God, your life changes. You remember when Saul encountered with God, his name became Paul,
Yeah.
and he became a very different person.
Absolutely.
So these encounters that we have on a daily basis, they will change you. And when they change you, please don't resist like Jonah and go AY, only to stay in a belly
Yeah.
for 3 days. So I would encourage someone who is still going through the same, or who is in the midst of all this. I never pictured myself to be where I am because of how I valued myself. And that's changed day by day. At some point, I had this debt in me, looking back and seeing me, that we would be in the same class with someone who has both parents, and anafukuziwa school fees, mimi naachwa. Sometimes najipata niko pahali, I'm okay, I'm comfortable, and he's fighting for his life, maybe in hospital, due to family fights and so on. So what I would really say, whatever you're going through, it doesn't really matter.
Sure.
As to how you perceive it. So if you perceive it positively, you're gonna be changed. So when I felt that I had a debt to pay to the society, I started asking myself, now that my life is a product of other people's work, what do I have to do with my life to make someone's life better? So when I went there in first year, I identified a children's home, which was next to campus. And in campus, life sometimes can be very much uneven in terms of thought and resources. So I went to a confidence of kwetu tuko na mali. So not many people knew I was from a children's home. And given the fact that I was a sanguine, people who used to make a lot of jokes, become jovial, so I had a network of friends. And friends who we hung out a lot.
Yeah.
So I started a project. And every Sunday, we used to go there with nothing, just ourselves. Sometimes 100 of us, 30 of us, sometimes 10 of us. And the inspiration to this was when I was in Otugi, there used to be these two kind of people. There are people who used to bring breads, the sugars, clothes, and so on. But there was this one friend who used to just come on a regular basis. Once in a while, he might not carry anything, or just come, talk something to you, and feel like the society still values me.
Yeah.
So that was the same. So when we went there, we started a program of every Sunday in the afternoon, we go there, we help them do assignments, we talk to them, we play with them, Sometimes you help them with chores, and then you go back to campus. And I did it for the 4 years. And I would say it used to feel me like I'm really worth it. Even when I was finishing Form 4, it's when I gave out my story and said, yeah, you know what, I'm still from a children's home. They were amazed. You don't even look like you're from a children's home. The things you do, the things you talk. So in some ways, that kind of inspiration really helps. So if you inspire someone, at some point you also get inspired.
Wow.
Lastly, when I finished campus, I also felt I needed to do more. So I came up with an organization. It's not yet registered, but it's working, called Heartfelt Care Center. Now with this, I go to people, talk to people, mentor people, go to churches, talk something, and do on and go on. And it's never even enough. Whenever I get a chance, I go motivate people, talk some sense to them, leave them something. I might not change everyone, but that one soul is enough.
Yeah.
So I would tell them, hang in there. There's always something for you.
Amazing. And of course, I get to understand there are people that you've gotten to raise. And of course, you're going to be speaking about that next time. But I appreciate the Lord for even giving you the grace to speak. And I want to believe there's someone who has been touched tonight. I want to believe there's someone who has felt like, I now don't think I have nothing. You know, I'm back to the statement you said one day you did OG, or maybe it used to happen, you do OG, and at some point haungeuza stock yote, and you literally now go give them, or your mom will tell you, enda weke this. You literally are needy, but there's someone who needs you even when you're in that state. That only means that you can never run out of being of help to anybody. You know, there will always be that room. And I love something that sometime I got from one of my fathers, my spiritual leader, that at any time you need to understand, and in any space, God have purposed you to be there for the sake of someone. And in as much as probably you may be feeling inadequate, incapacitated, inferior, however you may be feeling about yourself, you need to understand there is somebody who depends on you in that very might. That's exactly what God needs you to be, for you to be of help, and for someone to feel like we have a reason to live again, to hope again, and to love again. And I want to believe you have gotten these, you're feeling encouraged. I want to believe you're blessed. And because it is miles with God, we can never come to the end of it, because we are still going on miling. If we were to start the show again, you realize these people will speak a whole different thing, and you'll even go past time like we have done tonight. But all to the glory of the name of God. It is Him who have enabled us. I always tell you, whenever you hear us give a story minus mentioning God, that is a lie. That is a total lie. I love what Madam Shelmith says, that she does not understand how she managed, but she can only acknowledge the grace of God. What else can we literally look back and say made this happen? It is only by the grace of God. Miles with God will always be here to remind you, as Peter have told us, Psalms 125, them that trust in the Lord, they are like Mount Zion, which cannot be shaken. And the question that I need you to ask yourself tonight, who is the lead of my journey? Who is in the control of my journey? Who is the one that, is there to pave my way? You need to understand that it is not about where you are coming from. That is what I've gotten from tonight. That is what I've gotten tonight. It is not about where you were picked from, but who do you believe and who have you entrusted your tomorrow with? Because many other times our background have, defined our destinies wrongly. Probably you cast yourself and you felt like there is nothing that can come out of me. And the best idea I have in this, it is suicide, it is running away, it is hiding. But you need to understand that there will always be a better reason in any space that God will always put you in. And for that reason, please, I beg you, may you not lose hope in God. May you not, turn back and feel like I am living alone. You need to understand there is a God who loves you. There is a God who have a good reason for you. There is a God who have purposed good things for you. And you only need to anchor your hope and faith in him, because he will never fail you. Thank you so much for them that have been following us on YouTube and also Facebook. And I want to believe your life is getting better. Your hope in God is getting better. Your faith is in God is growing bigger. Till we meet again tonight, have been a blessing. And I want to believe that you too, you are blessed from your edge. God bless you. May you have a wonderful week, even as we begin another wonderful half of the year. Yes, I want to believe this is the season that God was waiting for. This is the half that God was waiting for to perfect things that were not working probably in the first half of the year. And I want to believe out of these, you're going to have a reason to trust and believe again. May you have a good night. May you have a wonderful week. May you have a good moment. May the Lord protect you. May the Lord preserve you. And may he remind you always that your life and your destiny is in his hands. It is not in the hands of your misfortunes or your failures. Till we meet again on Monday, I was your host, Faith Mwangi, and it has been a blessing. May God bless you and may he do you good. Have a good night and have a wonderful week.